Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber C-Risk Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Security awareness training is a key component of any risk program because human behavior continues to be one of the most frequent causes of security incidents. No matter how strong technical controls may be, a careless click, weak password, or unreported phishing attempt can lead to significant breaches. Security awareness programs help employees recognize risky situations, prevent mistakes, and understand how to report potential threats. These programs are preventive controls that apply across all domains of the C-Risk certification, from identifying and assessing risk to monitoring and response. Many regulatory and audit frameworks now require not only that training is offered, but that it is tracked and documented. On the exam, if a scenario describes repeated user mistakes, expired training, or a lack of behavior change, it may be pointing to a failure in the awareness program. A well-run program does not eliminate human error, but it does significantly reduce its frequency and impact. The goal of an awareness program is not to turn every employee into a security expert, but to build consistent, low-risk behavior into everyday tasks. This includes habits like using strong passwords, being cautious with email attachments or links, and securely handling data. Training must also reinforce existing policies and controls, including access rights, remote work guidance, and acceptable use rules. By tying training content directly to existing expectations, employees better understand how their actions impact the organization. Over time, a strong program supports a culture where security becomes second nature, and phrases like "think before you click" are practiced automatically. In regulated industries, training also supports compliance with standards such as ISO 27011, NIST, HIPAA, and others. The goal is not perfection, but to create a workforce that consistently makes better choices, understands their responsibilities, and knows what to do when faced with something suspicious. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Effective awareness training covers a broad set of topics, but each organization must tailor the focus areas based on its unique risk profile. Phishing and social engineering remain top threats, so simulations and education about suspicious emails are essential. Password best practices and the use of multi-factor authentication are foundational topics, as weak credentials are still a common point of entry for attackers. Employees must also know how to handle different types of data according to its classification, including what can be shared, stored, or sent externally. Remote work has introduced new risks, and secure practices like using approved devices, avoiding public Wi-Fi, and securing screens are critical. Staff must also understand how and when to report incidents and what the escalation path looks like. Even physical security, such as locking workstations and securing mobile devices, plays a part. On the exam, generic training is often portrayed as ineffective, while training that is tailored to user roles and real risks is seen as a strength. How the training is delivered matters just as much as what it covers. Online modules with quizzes are efficient and trackable, and they can offer certificates of completion for compliance. In-person workshops can offer deeper engagement and allow for real-time discussion and clarification. Phishing simulations provide behavioral testing and immediate feedback while also reinforcing lessons about suspicious email indicators. Microlearning techniques, such as short reminders through email, posters, or internet pop-ups, can help reinforce messages over time. Blended learning, which uses a combination of these methods, often results in higher retention and more engagement. Some users learn best through interaction, others through repetition, and still others through real-world scenarios. For the exam, remember that a one-size-fits-all delivery model is rarely the best choice. Look for answers that emphasize variety, reinforcement, and tracking, not just initial completion. Security awareness must be treated as a life cycle, not a one-time event. Most organizations begin with an annual baseline training session, which is often required for compliance. However, refresher training should be delivered throughout the year, either quarterly or in response to new threats or internal incidents. New employees should complete awareness training before being granted access to company systems to ensure that risk-aware behavior starts from day one. Content must be updated regularly to reflect new phishing tactics, changes in policy, or recent audit findings. If a scenario describes a user who clicked a malicious link months after their last training, it is often highlighting a lapse in training frequency or relevance. Training must not only be consistent, but timely. In rapidly changing threat environments, old lessons may no longer apply, and outdated training is almost as risky as no training at all. Tracking and measuring training is critical for proving its effectiveness and for identifying where more effort is needed. Learning management systems, or LMS platforms, allow organizations to assign courses, track completion, and generate reports for audits. These records are often requested by regulators, so accuracy and completeness are important. Beyond completion, organizations should monitor performance metrics such as test scores, behavioral change, and the number of reported incidents. Key performance indicators and key risk indicators, like phishing simulation click rates or password reset volumes, can help measure whether training is changing behavior. If certain teams consistently underperform, additional training or follow-up may be required. On the exam, expect questions where accountability is tied not just to whether training was provided, but whether it was tracked, reinforced, and proven to be effective. Different users face different types of risk, which means training must be adapted based on role. IT administrators, for example, have access to critical systems and require advanced training in access control, patching procedures, and configuration management. Human resources and finance staff may handle sensitive personal or financial data, requiring specialized training in privacy laws, fraud prevention, and secure communication. Executives must understand high-level risk concepts, incident escalation responsibilities, and the strategic impact of breaches. Generic training often fails to address these differences, leading to missed opportunities for targeted improvement. C-risk professionals must ensure that awareness programs are built around real-world risk exposure and operational roles. On the exam, expect scenarios where training failed because it was too generic or failed to address the responsibilities of a specific user group. Security awareness training must be supported by governance structures and clearly referenced in organizational policies. This means the program should be formally defined within the organization's security policy framework and linked to acceptable use policies, data handling rules, and incident response expectations. Training should not be voluntary or informal. It must be a formal requirement with consequences for noncompliance. Repeated failures to complete training or repeated risky behavior despite training may require escalation through human resources or management intervention. If a policy states that training is mandatory, but training records are incomplete or missing, this indicates a failure in governance and may trigger audit findings. On the exam, strong answers will connect training to documented policy, formal enforcement mechanisms, and role-based accountability. Many awareness programs fall short because they rely on outdated methods or are treated as a checkbox activity. One of the most common mistakes is offering training only once per year, without follow-up or reinforcement. Content that is overly technical, boring, or irrelevant to the audience will not be retained, and users may begin to see training as a nuisance rather than a tool for protection. Leadership must be visible in supporting the program. When senior executives complete and endorse training, it signals that the program matters. Another major failure occurs when organizations collect data from simulations or incident reports, but do nothing to improve the program. If users repeatedly fail phishing tests and there is no follow-up, the organization is accepting avoidable risk. On the exam, look for answers that emphasize continuous improvement, engagement, leadership support, and adapting content to maintain relevance. On the C-risk exam, questions related to awareness training often test your ability to link behavior to risk and controls to outcomes. You may be asked the best way to reduce human-driven security risk, and the correct answer will usually involve implementing or improving the awareness program. Other questions may describe an incident and ask why it occurred, often pointing to expired training, poor content, or incomplete role coverage. Some scenarios ask which users need additional training, and your answer should reflect past performance, access level, or exposure to sensitive data. You might also see questions about what control supports policy adoption, and the correct choice may be a structured awareness program with tracking and measurement. The strongest answers will highlight relevance, regular frequency, strong documentation, and demonstrated behavior change, not just training completion. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber C-Risk Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.